Today's topic: women don't have high standards at all. Not at all, okay? I'm your host. Now, this topic is quite a doozy because, as you may or may not know, if you scour the internets enough, you will find many, many videos and articles complaining about how modern women have impossibly high standards for men. One very popular statistic floating around is how 80% of men are unattractive to the majority of women. Okay? Now, what you are about to learn is possibly the biggest kept secret in the female community. This is something women will never tell you and never admit to you. You might ask, if women keep this a secret and nobody knows about it, then how do you, creator of this video, know about it? Well, it's because I'm smart, okay? I'm smart. And once you hear the end of the video, you will see why what I'm telling you is in fact the truth. But feel free to comment below if you disagree. Now, let's get into it. So here is the truth about the female mind. Women do not have extremely high standards for men. They never have, and they never will. What you see with these extremely high standards you hear about that women spout is in fact simple disinterest in relationships. Yes, that's right. Women simply don't want to be in relationships, but they don't want to say that, okay? Think about it. When a person wants something badly, they will do anything in their power to make it work. Look at what women go through for their careers to be successful. Look at the long hours, the hard work, the sleep deprivation, the stress, the office politics, the emotional abuse from their bosses and their coworkers that they endure just to have a certain job or a certain career and to make it work. Look at what they are willing to put themselves through for their careers. But when it comes to relationships with men, they are willing to walk away for the smallest infraction. Okay? So what does that tell you? Now you might say it means because their standards are too high. No, it's because she simply doesn't really want a relationship to begin with. Therefore, the only way a relationship is worth it to her and worth her time is if things are perfect or close to perfect. Okay? Don't believe me? Well, let's use hunger as an example. Okay? Because everybody can relate to being hungry. If a person has been starved and denied food for several days to the point where they might be very weak and close to death, then they are lucky enough to stumble upon, let's say, a random restaurant. Okay? It is very unlikely that this person will reject any food that is given to them. The food can have flies in it. There could be rats running out of the kitchen. It won't matter because they are starving and they need food ASAP. Any food will do. So let's say the person at the restaurant says, well, you don't have any money, but I'm willing to give you a stale cookie for free because you're starving. The person will then take that stale cookie without hesitation and they will enjoy it. And they will not complain about it. They will not care that the cookie is stale, okay? Now compare this to a person who has very easy access to fine dining and is following a very strict, healthy diet, okay? This person also does not like sweets very much or desserts very much. So they visit a restaurant and the chef offers them a free cookie on the house. So they agree to try this free cookie. They say, why not? It's free. Even though I don't like desserts and sweets, I will give it a try because it's free. Nothing to lose, right? So when they receive the cookie from the chef, they discover that the cookie is very crunchy. And they prefer chewy cookies. So after taking one bite of this crunchy cookie, they put it back on their plate and instruct the waiter to discard the cookie like trash because they do not want it. Okay? Do you see the difference? You might say this person has ridiculously high standards for cookies. But the reality is they never wanted a cookie in the first place. Okay? So therefore, if that cookie was anything other than perfect, they are not interested. Okay? So that is very much like the dating market. Prior to the feminist movement, men were a woman's career. Men were a woman's source of stability, income, status. Okay? Today, careers have largely replaced men in that role. Thus, the desire for many women to be in relationships has declined significantly. In other words, women who get into relationships with men for those particular things, as in just for stability, income, status, family pressure, religious reasons, women who do that no longer have the same level of pressure on them. So, rather than just admitting that they don't want to be in these relationships, they instead claim to have very high standards because that is a more socially acceptable reason to be single as a woman, that you are just not meeting men who live up to your standards. It is much more socially acceptable to say that than to just say, I don't want to be in a relationship. I am happy being by myself. I make all the money I need to make. I don't need a man. And that is in fact something many women have said already. I don't need a man. And they mean it. They don't need a man. However, when they say this, they get very strong backlash from the male community, and they deal with things that they would rather not have to deal with. So it's much easier to say, I have very high standards. High standards has replaced I don't need a man, but it means the same thing. It's very simple. It's for the same reason that the person at the restaurant didn't tell the chef they don't like cookies. When something has potential benefits with low risk, it's worth it. However, if it does not provide you enough value, you lose interest in it quickly. The cookie was offered for free, so they accepted it. So it's easier for a woman to say, I have high standards, rather than to say, I don't need a man. When you say, I don't need a man, you close yourself off to many opportunities with many men that you might otherwise be able to benefit from. When you say you have really high standards, you are more likely to run into a man who will actually attempt to meet those standards, and you will benefit from his labor and his investment in you trying to meet those standards when you know in the back of your mind you have no interest in this man long term. You are going to use him for his time, his attention, his money, and when you are done, you are going to move on because you don't need him to begin with, okay? Don't need him to begin with. Just like the person at the restaurant who took the first bite of the crunchy cookie and decided, not my cup of tea. Thank you for the free cookie. I'm moving on. Okay? In modern times, men largely want relationships more than women. The divorce statistics are proof of this. Women initiate around 70% of divorces. Okay? Now you might ask, why do men want to be in relationships more than women? The truth is, they don't, okay? They don't. They never have. Men just want sex more than women, okay? And even that is somewhat debatable. But generally it tends to be true because men have to generally hunt for sex, whereas sex is offered to women. So even if women want sex equally as men do, since they don't have to hunt for it, it's not the same thing. Now, prior to feminism, men needed to commit to women to gain sexual access, and women needed to commit to men to gain access to resources. Today, women no longer need men's resources for basic day-to-day life. However, men still need sex. Thus, men today have less to bargain with than they did in the past because employers have filled much of men's previous roles to provide resources, status, money to women. However, men have not found a sexual alternative to women, thus giving women the same leverage they've always had, but men much less leverage unless they happen to be at a very high level. Whether that be looks, money, status, whatever. Now, while most men no longer have to commit to women to get sexual access, they still need commitment to gain sustainable access to women. Otherwise, a man has to resort to buying sex directly, whether that be legally or illegally, or he has to constantly date and court multiple women simultaneously, which is a very time-consuming and expensive endeavor. that most men do not have the time or the money to participate in. On top of that, it comes with no guarantees that sexual access will be achieved. Okay? Women still want what they've always wanted. They want that protection, that attention, that status, those resources, and in many cases, kids and family. But today, they no longer need to commit to a man to get these things, so they don't. A woman can still have kids and support those kids by herself and or with the assistance of the government, or in many ways, the assistance of multiple men that she is dating, and not committed. Women's standards are not too high. They are just not interested. So, the mystery has finally been solved about why women love bad boys and rich guys. If you have not already noticed, bad boys are simply fun. Like I said, women also enjoy sex, but a woman who enjoys sex and is not interested in a relationship will, of course, prefer to date a bad boy, because bad boys generally are on the same page, looking for fun and not interested in any kind of commitment. So to avoid the drama and to avoid the clinginess of the man who wants a relationship, it is much easier to date the bad boy who is just going to have a good time and move on with his life. Okay? It is indeed the perfect match. This is also why rich men have a dramatic advantage in the dating market, because they have the ability to elevate a woman's resources and status beyond what she can do for herself. So she might be very happy with her career and her job and her money, but a rich man can elevate her to such a high level that it's almost like pre-feminism, where a woman needed a man for these things because she could not work herself. A rich man has the ability to create that dynamic without the woman having to be jobless. This is also why divorce is common once a woman realizes she can keep her lifestyle without keeping the actual man. Okay? If she can keep the lifestyle and keep the kids and lose the man, she often will. Now, does everything said in this video apply to all women and men? Of course not. Okay, of course not. We're just talking about the women with the so-called impossibly high standards. Okay, the women who value worldly success and materialism more than their relationships. These are the women that this video is about, so don't go out there looking at every woman cross-eyed thinking, all you care about is your job and you don't want a relationship. That is not the case. With the majority of women, that is the case with the women with the impossibly high standards. And I'm pointing this out for a very important reason. Okay? Because men who value sex more than relationships will naturally attract women who value resources more than relationships. And you might be wondering, what is the solution for normal men and normal women who are just looking for love and actually are nice people and want to commit and be lovey-dovey with each other? What is the solution for those people? How do those people avoid getting abused and used by these horrible, horrible bad boys and horrible, horrible career-oriented, independent, I don't need a man women? How do we avoid them? Well, the answer is quite simple. How do we avoid these cold-hearted members of the opposite sex? The answer is simply this: stop looking for a challenge. This goes for both men and women. If you want to date in a functional way without drama, stop looking for a challenge. Stop looking for that person who's going to be a challenge. Embrace those who are making dating easy for you. Embrace those who are being nice to you. Sure, it might be painfully boring. Sure, they might not be as arousing as these other types. But at the very least, you won't have to be constantly complaining about how horrible the opposite sex is. But if you want that excitement, if you want that challenge, then have at it. And keep whining and complaining about how bad the opposite sex is. You are putting yourself in that situation because you want a challenge. You want a challenge? Well, you got one, okay? Please like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. You will subscribe to this channel. And watch my other videos. I have plenty of other videos. Please watch them, like them, comment on them, support this channel. Cheers.